The following is a public affairs presentation of AM 1220 WQUN. The opinions expressed on the following program do not reflect the opinions of the staff or management of WQUN or those of Quinnipiac University.
And good morning and welcome to another edition of Reporter at Large. I'm your host, John DeAndre, and with me this morning is Rich Burgess. He's the president of Connecticut Carry. Before we get to him, let's read a little bit of news. As we start the new year, there are new laws that are going into effect, among them new gun laws. And to get you up to speed, January is bringing changes for our state gun owners, and those changes include a new law adding about 100 guns to a list of weapons specifically banned here in Connecticut, and brought in a physical characteristic test of military-style features that'll qualify a gun as an assault weapon. The expanded definition of assault weapon includes the AR-15 style rifle. Although it did not require gun owners who had previously purchased the weapons to get rid of them, the law does, however, require them to register the guns with the state of Connecticut. The legislation made similar requirements for owners of ammunition magazines that carry more than 10 rounds. The magazines can no longer be sold, but people who own them before the law passed can keep them if they're declared to the state presently. Now, the law goes on and includes serious penalties for not registering the equipment. Charges for possessing one of the banned guns after the deadline, which was January 1st, could range from a Class A misdemeanor to a Class D felony. Penalties for possession of a magazine that carry more than 10 rounds range from a $90 fine to a Class D felony. Connecticut residents convicted of any felonies are no longer considered eligible to own firearms. Now, that information comes from our friends at the Connecticut News Junkie. We now turn to our guest this morning to talk about all of this. The gun lobby he represents, the Connecticut Carry. He's President Rich Burgess. Rich, welcome back to Reporter at Large.
Thank you for having me back, John.
Can you give us an overview of what I just read and where we're going with this?
Sure. I think where we're going with this is we're going to be making a lot of criminals out of good people. We have quite a few laws that are coming into effect that require registration and action. It's interesting in the fact that these laws require action as opposed to usually a crime that is guilty of inaction isn't such a big problem. But in this case, your inaction in this state can actually result in a Class D felony. So that's quite a big problem that we're now experiencing with the new year.
Earlier this week, before we rang in the new year, the Department of Public Safety in Middletown, up along I-91 there, was swamped with people trying to make themselves legal.
Absolutely. A lot of people were in panic mode. Some people, obviously waited to the last minute to do such a thing because, there's principles involved and, a little civil disobedience is never a bad thing, but not a lot of people are connected to these ideas, and quite honestly, the state hasn't really published the guidelines.
Let's start with the assault weapon ban. Obviously, I know what your organization's stance is on that, but overall, the assault weapon ban, is it fair to connect it to Newtown?
No, not at all. We had a monster in Newtown who murdered his mother to obtain these firearms. No law in the world is going to prevent this kind of stuff. It doesn't make any sense to disarm law-abiding and good people when they're the ones who could have stopped something like this. Nobody should ever be subjected to a madman like this while being disarmed.
In terms of the large capacity magazines, that's part of this new bill. That puts a lot of people in the lurch, wouldn't you say?
Sure. Like I said, the inaction of people can now result in a felony, which I don't think you can find too many examples of in history.
The folks that are using these weapons, what are they using them for?
Most people just do target shooting, but the AR-15, for instance, just as a a broad example because there's over 100 banned firearms here. But the AR-15 that has been demonized can be used for target shooting. It can be used for hunting. It can be used for lots of things. And it's an especially good tool for self-defense in the home.
That's interesting because you're saying it's been demonized. I guess the average person doesn't probably have a large capacity magazine or assault weapon at home, but those that do, it's for sports purposes.
Well, I would actually say that the average person is likely to, and that's actually who this bill is going to hurt. The fact is that many people have these type of rifles and pistols and magazines just sitting in a closet somewhere. There's many that return from, for instance, World War II. People don't even know that these firearms are actually included because they assume, well, they're just looking for the things with black plastic on them. They're looking for the new age firearms. I have people contacting me around the clock asking about old relics that they're going to have to register now.
What is Connecticut Carry doing in terms of addressing what I guess we're seeing now is confusion and fear in what is legal and what isn't legal here in Connecticut?
Yeah, the confusion and fear is probably well-founded. We have the DSPP, which is the Connecticut State Police, essentially. They've been doing confiscations and raids based on no law at all. Municipalities don't know the laws and have been conducting similar confiscations. I can only assume that it's going to get worse when they have basically a law that just allows them to do whatever they want, which really any gun that looks scary to them now, they can go after the owner, and it's on the burden is on the owner to prove that he is somehow legal. The fear and uncertainty is going to be really tragic. However, Connecticut Carry is around because we believe that there needs to be an organization in Connecticut that can actually try to defend some of these people that are going to be caught up in this web.
Connecticut Carry itself, it's a statewide organization. How many members?
Well, right now, I think we just crested 1,400.
And what has its mission been in the last couple of months, let alone the last few days?
Well, we range in mission quite a bit. We have education as one of our primary missions. However, legal defense has become a very, very important mission as well. The big problem is that education is quite a bit easier in the financial sense, but legal defense is very, very expensive. So we do as much education as possible. So, for instance, before this gun ban, we wanted to make sure that everybody understood what it involved and where they needed to go and what they needed to do. But come January 1st, our mission's going to shift again. Now we need to actually defend these people or the people that didn't register.
This whole issue of Newtown, Adam Lanza, I'm sort of torn on this, knowing a lot of people in education. I'm sorry, and not to diminish what happened there, but it's my personal feeling at times, I vacillate on this, that it's not so much the gun as it was the person with the gun. And how did we get here now? Sure. Because what we saw earlier this week were hundreds of law-abiding Connecticut citizens wrapped around the public safety building, all trying to make themselves legal in fear of Class D felonies.
Right. And what we've done is actually made a more dangerous environment. Now these people have to worry about no-knock raids and things like that. When somebody is called to their residence, either on purpose or by accident, because we've seen plenty of that, now all of a sudden these people are now flagged as some kind of evil person because they possess this demonized weapon or magazine. And so now police have a clearer chance to go out and victimize these people. We're certainly trying to work with law enforcement to make sure that they understand what the laws are and what rights are involved, no matter what the laws are. However, we've created a dangerous environment where people are calling police. For instance, the UNH incident not too long ago with William Dong. Now, he broke several rules and laws. We understand that and admit to that. However, what he did was completely benign. He didn't hurt anybody. He never made any threats of violence. We don't have any reason to believe he made any threats of violence. The police certainly haven't released anything. And he was an armored truck driver, and people are victimizing him now and calling him, an attempted mass murderer simply for possessing demonized items.
You're listening to Reporter at Large on AM 1220 WQUN. Good morning. I'm your host, John DeAndre, and with me this morning is Rich Burgess, president of Connecticut Carry. We continue our conversation in a moment, but first this programming note. Dialogue 2014 follows this morning's Reporter at Large. Rich, let's take a break for a minute. Maybe you can make this clear to me and to those who are listening this morning regarding the commissioner making a statement earlier in 2013 and then I guess reneging on it. Can you walk us through what Commissioner Bradford actually said?
Well, Commissioner Bradford issued a letter to an attorney. He decided that pre-bans of all types, whether they be banned by features or by the actual name, make, and model, he decided that they would be legal to possess for pre-bans, which means that they were manufactured before 1994. Now, we like that interpretation in the fact that it's more liberal than what we have interpreted. But when we paid an attorney to interpret that same statute, we came back with something very different. And it seems pretty clear in the law that these named pre-bans were not supposed to be legal. However, now that Commissioner Bradford has made a pretty massive error, we will stand by his word, and we have to insist that the law be enforced by his word, because statutes in Connecticut make his interpretation effectively the law.
What did your organization do in terms of all of this?
Well, we decided to issue a press release calling for for Commissioner Bradford, that is, to actually enforce this the way he has interpreted it. We would like to see Commissioner Bradford issue a letter stating that he will enforce the law according to his interpretation. That's the right thing to do.
Was it bad timing on his part? Was it his honest opinion that got him maybe in trouble? Now he's retiring. I'm not sure if that's coincidental or not. What do you read into this?
Well, we've had many problems with Commissioner Bradford, so we wouldn't mind it being our responsibility that he's leaving office here. But there's probably quite a few things. I know he's been in a lot of trouble in the past with the police union and various other things. This whole consolidation of the state police certainly hasn't won him any favor. So it's pretty hard to tell, but it sure could be a coincidence as well.
Are there going to be any bills put in that are going to try to diminish what was done last year?
I don't expect it, honestly. I don't expect our political makeup to change in this state very much. There's certainly a lot of angry voters out there. There's certainly a lot of angry single-issue voters right now, and for good reason. We should certainly encourage them, of course. However, this state doesn't have a whole lot of that kind of influence. You're not going to see Republicans, in my opinion, with a clean sweep across the board. And without that, you're not going to see a whole lot of change in the legislature. Even with a clean sweep of Republicans, I highly doubt you would see much change with the gun bans, because that would be their last term most likely. So there's a real fine balance to be had there, and we are certainly encouraging people to vote for people who respect their rights. However, we're not advocating certain parties or anything like that because of that very idea.
What's the problem with owning a gun today?
There's lots of problems in Connecticut. Certainly the demonization of it. Not only are the guns themselves being demonized, but gun owners are being demonized. This whole connection with Newtown and people trying to attack the NRA. I've never seen such vitriol go towards the NRA. And we, in turn, are also getting that. Connecticut Carry gets pretty much daily death threats. It gets pretty nasty. And the unfortunate part is that we're on the side that is trying to reduce violence by keeping people with the ability to defend themselves. And what we end up with is violence being threatened against us for it. So being a gun owner, being on the gun rights side, it can be kind of a weird area, and it can certainly be a violent area, at least violent coming towards you. But just being a gun owner, it can be a very confusing and fearful place, because most of our members are asking us right now, like, am I going to lose my guns? Am I going to be able to keep my guns? Are they coming for me? And these are all very valid questions. There's only one reason for registration, and that's for eventual confiscation.
Does Connecticut Carry work with other groups here in Connecticut?
We often work, in hand, in a more of a disconnected or disjointed way. We don't have any official affiliations.
What is the mission for 2014? Is there one?
Well, in 2014, again, it's going to be a lot of legal defense. We're going to be trying to put forth a lot of education. The education that is going to become really important in 2014 is once you're registered with these laws, a lot of people think that, okay, now I can just go back to life as normal. But honestly, there's quite a few restrictions. I mean, just for people who have a pistol permit, which is about 1 in 10 eligible adults in Connecticut, those people now cannot carry their firearms in the same way, meaning that their large capacity magazines have to be downloaded to 10 rounds. They can't carry those large capacity magazines that they registered outside of the gun, which would mean like in a mag carrier on their side. Just having one in the car, for instance, as a backup, which that's one of the most normal things you would do with a semi-automatic firearm is have an extra magazine because that's what's most likely to fail. These things have now all become possible felony convictions. And so we want to make sure we get the information out there so that people are doing things to protect themselves not only from criminals, but also from the state.
I know 2013 was a busy year for your organization and similar organizations here in Connecticut. Have you had a chance to commingle with your national counterparts?
We've done various things where we've been involved. We actually had the NRA speak at one of these college courses that we discussed. But we're not, again, there's no affiliation with the NRA, beyond we just are on the same path. We do the same things, but we don't receive any money from the NRA. We don't take any direction from the NRA. If they ever have a program they want to work on, we'd consider it, but it's a board of directors thing.
We have a few minutes left. Joe Smith lives in Hamden, and he's got an assault rifle. He's got the magazine components, and it's January 4th or 5th or 8th, and he hasn't done anything yet. By law, what does he need to do, and where does he go?
Well, if you possess it after January 5th, you're in trouble. If you haven't already registered, you're going to have to sell it out of state, sell it to an FFL, which is a firearms licensee, or you're going to have to turn it into the state. And I would be real cautious about turning a firearm like that into the state because there are charges that can apply.
So there's no mea culpa. Oh, I didn't know. I forgot.
Well, we would certainly hope there is, and we would certainly try for that. But I wouldn't expect any amnesty.
Okay. Did the people have enough warning that this was coming?
Well, I don't know that they had enough warning. I mean, I can personally tell you that it's been a nightmare for me to try to get the laws out there because of the fact that the Connecticut General Statutes still haven't even been updated. The last update was on January 1st. These laws came out on April 4th. Even the people in the legislature didn't get to read them before they passed them. So, I mean, I think, yes, there's been some time, and we've certainly tried to use that time effectively. However, even on our side, it's been an uphill battle. There's 130 plus pages of laws. And 130 plus pages is ridiculous. Who can read all of that and decipher it? And the crazy part about it is there's things that have never been done before, as far as we can tell, where they've repealed one law, then they've rewritten it into this new bill, and that's supposed to replace the old one. But then parts of that bill, and actually it's an amendment to that, actually go back and reference the old revision of it. And I don't know how you'd even write that into the Connecticut General Statute. So getting your common man to look through that and then understand exactly what that's going to mean, very, very difficult.
So this past week with the making themselves legal folk, I would imagine they would have had to have the permits and all the paperwork. They waited in line, and if they didn't, had to be told to go back and get it, correct?
Correct. I know there's plenty of people who have been turned away for various paperwork errors. I know the state police have also, to their credit, have been trying to help people by having a notary on staff when they come up because your applications have to be notarized. You have to have a sworn affidavit. But, it's tough because if you don't have certain pieces of paperwork, you may get turned away and you don't have much time to come back.
Do you think people are sort of loosey-goosey with their paperwork and that actually maybe this is a good thing?
No, I don't think this could ever be a good thing. There's no paperwork that should be required to own a common tool like a firearm. And that's all a firearm is. It's just a tool. And any of this paperwork, I don't see what anybody out there can possibly think that this will somehow protect public safety. Knowing where firearms is, well, what are you going to do with that? I mean, that's even if Adam Lanza had just gone through this assault weapons registration, then what would have stopped him from doing the exact same thing that he did on that day? It doesn't solve anything. The only thing that can possibly stop somebody like Adam Lanza is somebody shooting him.
Do you think had it not been Adam Lanza, we would have moved in this direction anyway?
I think that was always the purpose. These bills that came out, it was really one bill and an amendment. This stuff was 130 plus pages. It didn't get introduced. It didn't get written in December. This stuff has been on the back burner, and we've had people like Martin Looney of the state Senate. He's actually said that in the past that these bills are already on his desk. He's been trying to push them, blah, blah, blah. So we personally believe this stuff has all just been sitting around, and they just use this as the perfect opportunity to push this.
You just said perfect opportunity. Do you think there'll be a perfect opportunity to reverse some of this in the future?
No, I don't think it'll all happen at once. I know a lot of people are counting on various lawsuits and, elections and things like that. No one person, no one effort is going to fix this. What it's going to be is a long, hard fight to reverse it and make sure it goes away. And by doing proper case law and litigation, we can make sure that not only does it go away piece by piece, but that those pieces can never be introduced again.
What are some of the states that your organization, Connecticut Carry, looks to?
Well, actually, we're modeled after Florida. Florida Carry is kind of the one that I looked at the most on how to do things. They started as a real small organization. They're real grassroots. They really understand how to get things done. Florida, for instance, one of the big things is they have concealed carry but no open carry. Well, in Connecticut we do with a permit. So we have concealed and open carry, so they kind of look to us for that. We've been pushing open carry in Connecticut to try to make sure people understand that and people don't get hurt while doing it. And Florida can only do it while they're fishing, for instance. And so it's kind of an interesting back and forth to see who's going to fix open carry first in their state. And I think we actually have done that.
Rich Burgess, Connecticut Carry, thank you for being my guest on Reporter at Large.
Thank you, John.
This is John DeAndre. Join us again next Saturday morning for another edition of Reporter at Large.
AM 1220 WQUN Hamden, another service of Quinnipiac University.